Welcome everyone to this session on can cyber feminism change cyber norms? We have with us today a wonderful panel. We have with us Anna Collard. Anna is the SVP and content strategist at KnowBe4 Africa. She is also a cybersecurity evangelist. She's joining us from South Africa. Am I right, Anna?
Yes, that's right.
We also have with us Kiki Mordi. Kiki is a journalist. She is an investigative journalist and the founder of Document Women. Kiki, it's great to have you here. So let's get started with this session, which is on cyber feminism. Today, we are having a discussion which is on cyber norms, and it's going on globally. There is also the concept of cyber feminism, which actually was first initiated in the year 1991 by a researcher. However, in this discussion, we will focus more on the cyber feminism.
Thank you so much. The pleasure is all mine.
Thank you. So we'll just focus on the concept of feminism and how it is merged in the area of cybersecurity and even cyberspace. We will also speak more about and understand whether it's just a theoretical concept or can it be practically implemented. So we first start with an opening statement. It goes on for about 5 to 10 minutes, and then we will start with the question and answer session, and finally the closing statement. So let me start with Anna. Anna, we would love to hear your opening statement. Thank you.
Okay, well, first of all, thank you so much, Sanjana, for having me. And it's a real pleasure to be here and to meet you, Kiki. Wonderful. So from my point of view, I don't really have a feminist background per se, but I strongly believe in, attracting or sort of inspiring more girls to join our industry. And when I prepared for the session, I have to admit, I had to look up what does cyber feminism actually mean? You know, I mean, we have like all these different perspectives, and I found that the research paper that you referenced, Sanjana, and then I found a few others, and the best definition that I came across, which I found really resonated with me, is, and I'm going to read that. It says, cyber feminism is a philosophy that acknowledges, firstly, that there are differences in power between men and women in the digital discourse, and secondly, that we want to change that situation. And I really love that, because it's sort of, it acknowledges, hey, that there is a power imbalance, and let's do something about that to change it. So I quite like that. When I look at, the whole sort of fourth industrial revolution and where everything is going, obviously, I suspect that COVID has probably leapfrogged some of the digitalization. But even before that, when Charles Schwab wrote the Fourth Industrial Revolution book, he did warn us in there that women will be more vulnerable in the future when it comes to job losses. A lot of the opportunities in the future will be or are internet-based, yet women are still much more, particularly in Africa, we're more or less likely than men to actually use the internet. In fact, on average, it's we 1/4 less than the proportion of men who are online. And in the poorer communities, it's even worse than that. It's about 50% less likely that women are connected at all. And that also means that we really have a sort of a gender digital divide, which, by the way, I also found an article this morning that I think it was by the World Wide Web Foundation. They said that because of this digital gender divide, I mean, it's obviously a moral issue because we, like women are left out of opportunities, but it's also an economic issue. And they declared in this report that the world economy has lost an estimated $1 trillion in the last decade because of women not accessing the internet and participating online enough. So that obviously needs to change. Some of the reasons of why this is the case and why we have that divide, I think they're quite complex. I mean, the one that I'd like to mention is patriarchy and patriarchal thinking and norms and attitudes. Particularly, again, I think in some of the African countries, and I can talk about South Africa, our society is highly patriarchal still. And I mean, that also explains why we have one of the biggest rates of gender-based violence in our country, unfortunately. And that sort of attitude and those beliefs are spilling over into the digital realm. And in fact, I think, again, this was a survey done by the World Wide Web Foundation. And out of 10 men that they've interviewed, 3 believe that men have more priority over women when it comes to accessing the internet. Men have a responsibility to restrict what women can see on the internet. And 2 out of 10 women actually believe that too in their survey. So there's this gendered thinking or biased thinking that is very difficult to, well, it's difficult to measure, first of all, but it's very hard to sort of quantify. And I think when we talk about norms and policies, it will be difficult for or let's say it's easy for policies or for policymakers to overlook that fact that there is this patriarchal thinking amongst both men and women. And then the other problem that you have is, and this again it's backed up by facts, is that women, particularly Black women or women of color, are much more likely to be harassed online and sort of abused. In fact, I think let me just see that, yeah, it's 39% of respondents to a survey by the apc.org or the African Feminist Research. They said nearly 40% of African women are concerned or very concerned about their safety online because they've either experienced sort of online gender-based violence themselves, or they've sort of witnessed it amongst their family or friends. And that could range, it's anything from sexual harassment to sort of offensive name calling, stalking, etc. And again, this is like, it's a inbred belief that that makes it, well, it's obviously not okay, but that is sort of inbred in societies that is okay. When it is not, and that then in return prevents those girls and women from actually using the internet to its fullest form. So that has to change. And then the second point, so there's the one hand side is this patriarchal society, that thinking, and the second one is education, like digital literacy in general. And I include cybersecurity and safety in that. It's like, always talk about being cyber safe is no longer a tech skill, it's a life skill. And that's not happening enough on the continent. So not enough schools are offering internet access, first of all. They don't offer sort of tech training to the teachers. They don't do any security awareness training. In fact, we've conducted a survey last year, and out of, it was about 440 or 445 teachers all over Africa, and we asked them, like, it was more about how to attract girls into the industry. But the one thing that we asked as well was how many of your schools are currently offering cybersecurity as like an awareness or a subject, and only 3.7% of the schools, including higher education institutions, by the way, are offering this as a subject. So, that's way too little. So that needs to change in my view. And yeah, that I think as an opening statement, I have a lot more to talk about this, obviously, but I think that would be it for my part so far. And I obviously look forward to what Kiki has to say in the discussion. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Anna. That was quite The numbers, in fact, it's quite it's not a good number that to speak about at all. There's a lot of work that needs to be done. In terms of cyber feminism, I think let me come to Kiki. Kiki, please, we can you can make the online the opening statement, and then right after we will come to the question answers when I will be touching upon these. Yeah, thank you.
All right. I mean, thank you so much. And I think that, I mean, Anna, you have covered quite a lot. I would say that access to the cyberspace and to tech and to the internet is divided amongst so many fault lines. And one of the biggest lines there is equality, equality of sexes. Um, and then if you break down those lines, further and further, you would find that a lot more people cannot access, this new age that we are waltzing into because of their sexual, because of their sex, because of their gender, or because of their location, their geographical location, or even because of their financial status. And many of these things are systemic in the sense that no one is saying that, oh, you cannot access the internet because you're a Black woman who's living below the poverty line. No, no one is actually stopping you, but the systems are. And that means that you do not have access to the right equipment, or you do not have, or you can't afford, you can't afford to, even when you're offered a job in a tech space, you can't afford 24 hours light where you are, maybe because you're in a country like Nigeria who doesn't have 24 hours light and you cannot afford the extra power supply backup generator, or because you're not in the location where there is good internet sources. There are so many reasons. Like if you want to break it down to the very, very minute details, there is so many reasons, both structural and non-structural, why there is a huge divide when it comes to access to the cyberspace. And that is where the opportunity lies for us. Because we come from decades of fights for inclusion for women, we know that we are in a new, we've passed the evolution. We've passed a place where we're in the cyber age. All right. And we cannot continue with that fight, knowing that women will still be disenfranchised and excluded. And that is why this is a huge opportunity for us to normalize cyber feminism. Because the conversation of feminism has to go far and wide. And we have seen that there is an opportunity for skill when it comes to the internet and when it comes to technology. And we have to take that space right now. Another important space is knowing that, I mean, why many of us don't see, many of us in the past did not see women as inventors is because of the lack of visibility the female inventors had at the time. When it was time for the agricultural revolution, many people thought that men were stronger and so they deserved like a huge spot in agriculture. But the truth remained that for every man that was recorded as a farmer, he had his wives and his children. I'm speaking for this part of the world, Africa. I mean, it was culture, it was norm for him to have his wife and his children contributing actively, by hoeing, harvesting, weeding, anything. But they were not recorded as part of the agricultural revolution because we did not perceive them as that. And so that massive erasure from the arts of the past, from agriculture in the past, from science in the past, made sure that women continue to fall below the access line. And now we even live in an age where we know that there are hidden figures in the internet. There were women, I mean, it was seen to be a woman's job long ago to compute permutations, in the internet. But now that it has become mainstream and a huge source of income, we are experiencing real time a gap, a gender gap. And so that is why it's important for cyber feminism, for the digital footprint that must be preserved of women's contribution to the new cyber age, and to also make sure that the more women we try to get into this space, we are already creating a safe space for them. So yes, that's my opening statement, and I hope to speak more on this, of course, as the conversations ensues.
Thank you, Kiki. Let me just point out to one thing that Kiki just said, that first of all, Document Women, her initiative, it documents women's initiative, which is, I think, really necessary today. Women participation in various sectors, and also it documents the role, and it completely highlights what feminine and feminist contribution to society is, which is really important, and an incredible job done there. Now in this part of the session, I would be coming to the question and answers. So the first question to Anna. Anna, you just touched upon some very important concepts, and also the quality that you touched upon in terms of feminism not being given importance in society, and there being a lot of digital gender gap in terms of education, and also in terms of how women are treated online and how they are perceived online. So, with this, I would like to ask you on what we can do as individuals, as IT professionals, and also as women, to merge the two concepts. Like, how can we implement feminism as a concept in society and in our work?
Yeah, I think the first step that we would have to do is raise some awareness of the issue itself. Like I said to you, before you reached out, obviously I'm always sort of been involved with maybe an woman empowering or empowerment, but I haven't actually, the term cyber feminism is not something that, and I've worked in cyber security for 20 years, and I haven't really come across it, not in my field, so I had to look it up. So I think the first thing to do is to raise the level of awareness amongst all of us to sort of let people know, hey, there is a digital divide. There is a definite disadvantage that women will have if we don't change this. And well, that will be the first thing, is to really have the conversation, do things like we're doing today, really raise awareness about the issue. And then the second thing I feel is that we need more data. So more research data, more stats that can really help make or at least influence policy decision makers. And I feel that the group, they're called the African Feminists, I believe. They really fantastic. There's a group called Policy, and they've done some great work on that. I've read some of their reports, and we need more of that. We need them on a national level and across the continent, as well as obviously globally, but particularly in Africa. And then thirdly, so it's awareness, it's more research, more data. And then thirdly, the one thing that I've learned from the report or the survey we did amongst the teachers is we actually have to create role models. We need to show other women, girls, what is possible and how attractive a career path in the ICT sector can be. And the only way we can do that is by, well, not the only way, but one way of doing that is to really provide role models to them that can showcase it's possible, and it is great fun, and you can have a real opportunity there. I think that's very important. And then obviously, there's more systemic changes that need to happen on a policy level. Definitely, like we have to address gender-based violence, and that's currently not at all being addressed by our governments. I read something that's, I think only 75% of all governments in the world are currently addressing that. So it's not been done all over the world, but particularly not in Africa. So that needs to change. We have to also go to the platforms, like the Twitters and the, Facebooks, etc. They need to do more to curb sort of misogynistic content. That's not done enough. Yeah, and then it was mentioned by Kiki as well, make it more affordable. We have to provide access, and lastly, education. So the digital literacy needs to be provided, both boys and girls. But at a young age, across the board. So quite a lot of work cut out, I believe.
It is a lot of work, but what fundamentally comes into my mind when you say this is that um, when, like, for example, when we approach anybody for something like, for example, a webinar like this, cyber feminism, they don't seem to be very interested in cyber feminism. So, what do we do in order to get them interested? Because the numbers are there, the situation is extremely tough. I mean, the situations are, people are not working, the government is, but what can we do to shake them up and to get to them to work in this particular area? With this, I would like to come to Kiki. I think, Kiki, you have done incredible work in terms of like you have incredibly, changed in terms of policies and the way government functions as well. I think we have lost Kiki there.
Yeah.
Just a minute. I think I'll just continue this conversation. So, Anna, so to the next question that I want to come to, and that is how do we include, can we make like an application? How do we exactly, how do we make a technology that can bring care and that can bring digital inclusion and diversity in terms of technology? Because you come from a technical background, and this is very interesting because nowadays people, when they think of solutions, they usually ask for a technology, and I think we have Kiki.
Hi, so sorry. I had to switch internet sources because the other one wasn't very strong. Sorry, can you repeat the question?
Yeah, so Kiki, wanted to ask you the question that, so if when we have to bring about a change socially and
Mm-hmm.
normalize cyber feminism, what do you think should be our approach? Because people don't take it very seriously.
To be honest with you, I understand Anna saying that she hasn't come across the word because most of these things are happening real time. We don't have experience of fighting cyber feminism because that's not a thing that we've had to fight before now. And even other new terms that are beginning to get more popular, cyber GBV, tech GBV, digital GBV. It's basically just a culmination of the fights that we already know and the fights that we know will come. And so it would be realistic to say that we don't know for sure what exactly will work, but we can take a leaf from history, knowing that partnership has solved, partnership has helped to solve a lot of these problems. When you hear people say partnership for the goals, you have a goal of ensuring that, I mean, we reduce the speed of global warming, and we know that women are a huge part of that, and we know that there has to be a synergy or partnership between feminism and what we now call green feminism. That's the term that was coined because it's a combination of fighting against climate change and fighting for feminism. And I think that that is an approach that will work here for cyber feminism. We need the inclusion of the cyber, you know dudes, because I mean it is now, we call them tech bros in my country. I don't know if that's how it's called in many other countries as well, because it's mostly men that are in tech. And so even the women have to call themselves tech bros because everybody is a bro. When you think of someone working in tech, you have to remember a man first. So it needs that allyship from the tech community, and the allyship from the feminist community, because feminists have been doing this for a long time, and there is a history of organizing, demanding, accountability and all of that. um we also, since tech is such a data driven space, then we also have to put we also have to put like our skills to work. Well, I say I'm not a part of the tech community, but I know, a lot of people in the tech community, and I know how hard they use data to drive conversation. I know how hard they use data to drive um, um, campaigns. If they want to campaign for anything, they would know where to find the data, and with the power of storytelling, get more people or preach to more people, convert more people to this side of life where we are all advocating for a semblance of equality, both in the real world and on the digital space. So that's one approach. Everyone needs to be involved. Essentially, partnership. Everyone. Then we need to do our research, and we need structurality, because we need to understand that what we're fighting is a structural problem, and so we don't need heroes. We don't need one or two people who are heroes, our cyber feminism heroes. We need structures that work, because these structures are the only thing that would literally dismantle years and centuries of structures that has been put in place to make sure that women are on this other side of the divide, or women are on the lower side of poverty line, or that women are on the lower side of wherever. I mean, it's very different from many countries. Some countries will not have to worry about things like marriage, child marriage, but that's a reality here in Nigeria. The reality is sickening in different levels, and some countries do not have to worry about feticides, where a fetus is essentially killed because it turns out that this child is going to be a girl and not a boy, not because the mother has consented to an abortion, or not because there is something wrong with the fetus, there's something medically wrong with the fetus, because the family would rather have a boy child than a girl child. And this is not the reality in the US, but it's the reality of some countries like India and even some parts of Nigeria. So it's just that contextual. When we want to get everyone on board, we're not just trying to unify the struggles. We have to remember that there is context. We have to see color, we have to see tribe, we have to see race, we have to see all of these things and account for them in the way that we advocate. So if you come to a village in southern Nigeria, for example, or even northern Nigeria, and you want to fight for cyber feminism, they don't even have cyber, and then you're talking about feminism. So that's why the struggle has to speak the language of everyone that it claims to include.
Hello?
Yeah. So that's I'm gonna stop there. The struggle has to speak the language of everyone. The struggle has to be inclusive, but then again, it has to speak the language of everyone that it claims to include. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you, Kiki. That was really important because language, it makes a lot of difference. It's what bridges, and it's what fills the gap. And I think coming to that, Anna, again, coming back to the question, what kind of technology, what kind of content, because you work on content and fantastic content in terms of creating awareness on cyber. The work that you do is just incredible. How do we have this content reach out to the masses? How do we communicate what is necessary through the technology and media?
Yeah, I think one before I answer that, I just also wanted to go into what Kiki said, which I totally agree with. Something that has been happening in the tech industry in the last few years, I've particularly found it quite prevalent, like sort of in the last 2 years, that there is this whole movement of women in tech, women in cyber. So there is more of a recognition happening already in our field to highlight the some of them actually find, it's a bit controversial. Like some women say, I don't want to be recognized for being a woman in tech. I want to be recognized for the work I do. But I think it's actually a good thing because it provides a platform for, and let's face it, I mean, in security globally, only 20% of the people working in cybersecurity are women. In Africa, it's only 9%. So it provides a platform, at least for those women that work in that industry, to be then seen like by a wider audience, and it could also be used as like a sort of like a role model in a way. It provides the stage. So that's I think is a good thing that's happening. And there's also a lot of male allies that sort of support those initiatives. In terms of using technology to bring the message across, and particularly in the way Kiki said, you have to do it in a language that everybody understands. And like, I mean, if I think about cybersecurity and cyber safety awareness, which is something that the field I'm in, a lot of our larger, financial services institutions, telcos, they are all on like a trajectory at the moment to do more awareness towards the public. So there is like that sort of, okay, how can we as let's say MTN or some, telecommunications provider, they have a responsibility because they provide the access, but now they also want to make sure that they're actually educating the consumers to a certain degree about the risks and the threats out there. So maybe one way could be to piggyback off those initiatives and speak to the right sort of private sector organizations and make them aware and find ways of including messages that will attract, that address this issue, but do it in a way that is subtle enough and simplified enough that it can be understood. And I believe you can only fight a fight if you do it in a positive way. Like you have to, instead of highlighting the problem, maybe what we have to do is highlight more the solutions. Like, how do we attract more girls into the STEM areas? How do we, what are the opportunities for girls? Focusing really on shining the lights. But this is just, it's just me brainstorming. So I obviously there's no magic wand that I can say here's like a technology or an application and that will solve the problem, because it goes way beyond the digital space anyway. I mean, that's what this whole patriarchal thinking, those norms that are in place, as Kiki mentioned, those are cultures and traditions and attitudes that are so ingrained in societies. They just happen to then also shift into the digital space. And to change that that's a really that's a bigger conversation, I think. But yeah, I guess by maybe using similar tactics that we do, I mean, we use in the cybersecurity awareness space, we try and use storytelling, we try and use positivity, we engage emotions to make people pay attention to the messages, and then obviously retain them as well. And similar to that, I think that's what should be happening in this space to spread the awareness.
Thank you, Anna. However, there's one thing that goes that people, especially women, they want appreciation, and I think with this, many people, like I have come across girls who don't want to get educated in the village because it's against the norm. In their village, there are not many girls educated, and they won't be appreciated if they don't, if they get educated, because it goes against the norms. And so, with this question, I would like to come to Kiki. Kiki, if you could just tell us about how do women overcome the thought of being liked and getting appreciated, because This is one of the things that we are dealing with when we want to when we want to pass on this message and get them into ICT education, especially.
Okay, so again, I think back to what I said before. This is not an issue that this is a contextual issue for some communities, and well, there's a straight line you can draw from all the communities where you have to think about encouraging the young women to how that particular society treats the older women. It's a very straight line. So in societies where we have equal marriages, where the father and the mother both work, the father and the mother both contribute to um, the upbringing and just care of the home, it's easier to find a girl who is willing to go into tech. And then when you find a girl doing things like cooking, it's not because she thinks is her role, it's because she thinks that cooking is a legitimate path towards what she loves, what she's passionate about, and what she and and escaping poverty essentially. But when we come to communities like my own community, where when you're born, the women already, once they are able to walk and talk, they're already assistant mothers in the homes. They already cook for their brothers, and the boys already start to assume position of head of the family, and immediately, and then they see that play out for the older individuals. The mother, of course, commits her life to taking care of the father, while the father commits his life to being the head and the king. It's very hard to get a young woman who has grown up in that society to want to aspire to be more. But even at that, we still find women who do. And so when we tailor education for young people, we have to know where we are tailoring it. So if you're in a community where it's harder for the young woman to break out of that stereotype, you have to be patient, really, because as a person who preaches feminism and or freedom in so many spaces, I get it thrown back to my face where people say, okay, you say feminism is about choice. I choose, to do this because that's where they find safety in. They find safety in choosing to be subservient to men, only because the women who dared to oppose that face violence, face ostracization, face all sorts of things. And these women don't want a part of it. The unpopular ones are the feminists. The feminism is an insult where I'm from. I mean, it wasn't up until recently. It wasn't up until recently that I tweeted that the first time the word feminist was in the front page of a Nigerian newspaper. It was not an insult. That was in 2020. Think about all the years where people have become feminists, where we have women like Chimamanda representing us globally as a feminist, but she comes back home and she faces all the vitriol and online bullying. So you need to be patient in societies like that. It's not very easy. You think you're offering them freedom by saying this is a path to cyber, this is a path to financial security. This is a place, tech is the new oil. Tech is the new place where you can make money. And they think to themselves, well, this is not my job. My job is not to make money. I'm going to be picked by a man who's supposed to make money and protect me. And if I say I want to start making the money by myself, I know all the violence that all the women who call themselves feminism have faced. I don't want to face any of that. And so they immediately just know that this path is not for them. Just understand that you're one voice in a million and you can only lead by example. And so the women who have actually shown great promise, it's our job to try to educate them and catch them young. The women who have shown great promise, we reward their good deeds, because the only thing that other girls like them are used to is being rewarded bad. I mean, what's the word for having a bad reward, not a good reward? Is getting that bad backlash as opposed to a reward for actually going out and studying. And again, going back to what I said about the problem being systemic, we have studied the lifespan of a young Nigerian girl who as a child wants to get into tech. Getting into the primary school, if she's lucky enough, She doesn't face the discrimination where we say, I mean, the type that I face, where we say, oh, the most intelligent boy versus the most intelligent girl. They separate boys from girls, regardless of the scores. A girl could have 98, another girl could have 99%, another girl could have, from 90 to 99. And then the highest boy would be, his score will be 89%, but he'll be awarded the highest boy. And then all the girls that have scored so high will just be reduced to one token girl called the highest girl. And then when it comes down to it, only the highest boy will be chosen. The only time the girl will be chosen if they need two people is if they need two people. So this has already reduced the number of girls who are at the top of their class. And then they get to secondary school and they face all sorts. In university, it's very rampant that women have to go through the rites of passage of sexual harassment or sex for grades. All right. And then we lose another half or another good percentage of women who are supposed to be in tech. And this is women who were not even plenty in the beginning, who were not even plenty to begin with. And then we go out to the actual workforce and there is all forms of discrimination. And we're talking about girls who have been completely broken and battered by the system. And so it's going to take a lot more than saying, oh, young girl, this is, we can sponsor you to go through school. You need to mentor her to go through school. You need to coach her to go through school. And we need to protect her while she faces all the systemic problems that are built to make sure that she doesn't come out alive or she doesn't come out successful in this journey towards financial prosperity. And so it's a really long journey. It's a long process, and it doesn't just stop or start at teaching. Protection has to be a part of that. Protection has to be a part of it.
Kiki, I think you made amazing points there in terms of systemic change and also in terms of patience, because this is what I think sometimes we get irritated and we just want things to happen, but it requires, I think, patience and um, and you also raised some really important. I would like to come to Anna with this. Anna, is there any way of today, when we talk about women in technology, we have many sessions that go on just focusing on women in technology. Is there any way in which we can bring up sort of a session aimed at men to value feminism, or just teaching them feminism or something, because we see that it's whenever we have Women's Day, we have sessions on women in tech and technology workshop for women to get them more skilled in terms of tech and all those things. But to be very honest, we don't have to focus on the gender when we have to skill somebody. You just skill them, whether it's a woman or a man. It doesn't really matter. So if we have to design like a workshop, how do you think it can be, and will it be really impactful? What is your view on this?
That's a good question. I think, unfortunately, that a lot of men, when they, and like Kiki said, feminism or feminists, a lot of men have like a negative connotation with it. And then already if they see that in the headline, they probably won't join because, so I think it's unfortunate that it is like that, but I've done this, even if I think about my own husband, who is extremely supportive of everything I do, and he's very he's a good guy, yet even he has very deep ingrained views that just being a South African man, it goes back, I don't know, like it runs so deep that it's really difficult to change that. So I think while I was also listening to Kiki and now your question, storytelling might be a good way of doing it by using other women as role models, by telling their stories, by sharing the challenges that they had to face. Even the story that Kiki mentioned of that, you know, the girl who is faced with these like if she has the highest score in class or the second highest score in class, she's not even seen because they just, you know, they choose the boy. All of these little stories that accentuate the problem that most men are not aware of because the recipient, like, you know, they're not the victims in this, so it doesn't even feature. Most men I speak to, they have no idea about gender-based violence happening online. They don't, that doesn't even compute that exists, that there's a stat like that it is a problem. So I think that maybe through storytelling and by trying to address a bigger issue and then subtly bringing in those stories to paint the picture without calling it that. So it could be a workshop on enabling Africa's youth, for example, you know, so that's a wider sort of, it has no gender implications, but then so you're bringing in the and one great example, for example, could be to, you know, use the cybersecurity space as or industry as an example, because we have such a huge skill shortage globally. Why don't we equip more African youth to develop into cybersecurity professionals, and then have some sort of you know, create a service where we can even sell security services to the rest of the world. So if we could kick off something like that, invite the right organizations, you know, and it's not just about genders, but then when we talk about it in the workshop, you're bringing in those stories, and then like anyone with a bit of a understanding should then get the message. That might be one way, rather than rather than doing it just women in tech or girls in tech or feminism, etc. I don't know, that's just an idea.
Might I add to what you've just said? That's a very, very important point, the power of storytelling. And as a matter of fact, storytelling through any means whatsoever, I think there is one thing that unites us. I would say that we have a history of storytelling in Africa, in the way that we did our art, or in the way that we passed down our folklore from generation to generation. But then we've seen like multiple movements in, you know, present day movements, that through the power of film, for example, the investigative film that the BBC Africa Eye team worked on, which I was a part of, called Sex for Grades. It happened that we all knew that this thing was happening, but just seeing it play out in front of us just really changed our perspective and brought a sense of urgency. So like what you said about a man not knowing about gender-based violence going on online, it's real. They see it every day, but it's not visible because they don't see it like that. It's very normal. Oh, a girl is being bullied, or somebody's nudes have been leaked. I guess it's just another Tuesday on Twitter. But, you know, if it's a part of pop culture, so a song that is now very popular, that is now a hit, is sort of explaining to them why this is horrid for that young girl, why just another Tuesday for you is a horrid lifetime for that person whose nudes have been leaked on Twitter. Perhaps they begin to get like a bigger understanding of the scale of the problem. And then the problem becomes more visible. Their privilege bubble is burst a little bit through things like film. Because of film, we've seen many movements, you know, that don't even concern us from across the world, make us shed tears in the cinema or in our homes, because we suddenly empathize with the characters that we've seen sprawled across our screen. So that's another subtle, non-violent approach to getting more and more allies. And it's not because, and it works not because you're trying to get them to be allies. You're only showing them the reality. And then at that point, it's up to them to choose to be allies or not. And that way you have stronger commitment, because you didn't ask for this commitment, you only showed, and they chose to join like forces with you. And so just to buttress on what you said, storytelling is an important way to sort of spread the news across and get more people on board.
Absolutely. Absolutely, this is completely. And just to add one thing to this conversation, today the stories that are being told and the people what they are watching, many of the content it's very misogynist, especially in terms of like we see Mad Men and all these things very popular on Netflix and Amazon Prime. These are. But they have really misogynist content and it's most watched, so sometimes it's very controversial, I mean, contradictory in terms of what we envision and what we want society to be like, and what people really like in terms. And there's a lot of duality there, and this is, I think, the takeaway would be in terms of the power of storytelling to highlight this more in terms of raising awareness. We come to the last part of the session. We would like the final comments. Anna, your final comments.
Yeah, thank you so much, Sanjana, and thanks, Kiki. I've really enjoyed the conversation. I had a dream. I think I shared it with you already. I wanted to create these cyber heroines, we call them, by using something like, I'm not sure if you remember that Nike, they always have these inspirational YouTube videos that are very much actually pro-woman. And I don't know if you remember, it was a few years ago, they had, the Just Do It film, which is very emotionally it's captivating and inspirational, and something like that would be great if we could create like a high quality story-based awareness clip that will show girls and women as well as men what it could be on a positive side, and also the challenges that girls and women are facing, but also how they can overcome them, hopefully. So that I'm still working on that, so I hope one day we'll get that done or produced.
I really can work together on that. Also, being an artist myself, it's really nice to just color, and I think people can relate to it because I can relate to it and others can relate to it. So awareness becomes even more enjoyable in terms of just seeing that and then getting awareness. Kiki, your final statement.
Okay, this is an interesting way for me to find out that you're an artist. And I'm willing to work with document women or myself in capacity as an individual, willing to work with either one of you, Anna or Sanjana. I mean, we already have a lot of work that we're doing with the cyber diplomat, but anything to advance the cause, we're definitely available to work. And as a final statement, I would say that while we're doing everything that we can in our small spaces, we still need to demand that the people who have the skill, the governments, the big corporations, I think that being a part of the society means you have a duty right back to your society. And so you can use your office and you can use your medium or whatever you can to tell the story. Telling stories is the easiest thing that you can really do. And so if we have more Netflix and Warner Bros. Media and all of these big corporations inculcating the gospel, I'm going to call it the gospel, in their everyday storytelling, I think that they would reach much more people than if just three of us in this virtual room. I mean, how many followers do we even have combined, really? how many people can we really reach? But we have like so many pictures that is present in like hundreds of countries who have this reach and can cover more ground. So I think that sometimes with our voice, we can demand on these organizations or bodies or even the government that have more reach to be a part of this conversation and be a part of the struggle, because they owe it to the society that appointed them as leaders or that keeps consuming their media. So that's my final statement. Of course, and we've seen many corporations in the tech side, blow up. Like, this is the boom. This is tech boom that we're living out right now. Corporations like Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, these corporations have even higher reach, and they also have ease, because there is the ease that comes with the cyberspace. And so it would be much more easier if we see that we do not reward the actions of misogynists on Twitter by giving them more followers, and we do not punish women who have been outspoken or women whose nudes have been leaked on social media by blocking their accounts. We need to see we need to see good deeds go unpunished, and we need to see bad deeds go punished. So that's the final statement from me. Thank you so much for having me on this platform.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Kiki. Thank you, Anna. Thank you both for joining this. This was a great session, and I look forward to working with you in the coming days. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.